You are tuning in to the Atlanta Realtors Rundown, the official podcast for the Atlanta Realtors. We're here to keep you updated with the latest trends, topics, and keep you in the know of our ever-changing Atlanta market. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome back, familia. This is Manny Recinos, and I am thrilled to be here celebrating with you during Hispanic Heritage Month. For those who don't know, September is National Hispanic Heritage Month, and it runs from September 15th to October 15th in the U.S. It recognizes the contributions and influence of Hispanic Americans to the history, culture, and achievements of the U.S. And here to help us celebrate and kick things off, we actually have Theresa Palacios Smith. Welcome, Theresa.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Manny. Thank you for inviting me.
I am pumped. Now, Theresa is the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at Home Services of America. And in the perfect tie-in to real estate and the mission of the Atlanta Realtors Association, she also has been imperative to the growth of NAREP. NAREP is the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, and it's a national organization. But Theresa actually was Atlanta chapter co-founder and 2010 president. She then went on to be national president, reigning from 2015 to 2016. She is a staple in the organization and here in our community, and we are so excited to have you again, Theresa.
Well, thank you so much, Manny, again.
Yes. So I want to get started, as always, with just an introduction to you. Can you please tell us a little bit of, a little bit about you and then how you got involved in real estate?
Well, first of all, I'm so excited to be in this room, the Atlanta Realtor Association, which I've been part of for 20 plus years. And, a lot of people ask, do you get into real estate by choice? Is it by chance? How does it happen? And for me, it's a very interesting story because when I got started into real estate, it was after a career in public relations and broadcasting. So I'd worked in the industry and I actually had moved to Atlanta with my husband who had relocated here. And I decided to be a stay-at-home mom for about 5 years. And while I was at home, of course, as all Latinos, we're all entrepreneurs. I actually had a business, and I realized how critical real estate was. We had just bought our first home, and I decided I wanted to get my real estate license. But let me move back and tell you why it became such a critical thing for me. So I remember my very first experience in home ownership, and that was when my dad moved from New York City, our family, to Miami, Florida, as an immigrant family, Latinos. My dad had gotten this phenomenal job with Delta Airlines, and we lived in and it was a 2-bedroom apartment, but actually officially was a 1-bedroom because it had just like a big room next to it. So, but as most Latino families, there was a bunch of us that lived there. My 2 aunts lived there. There was 4 children, my mom and dad. And my dad sat us down one day because I was the only one, me and my sister Alma were the only ones that spoke English. And I was the oldest, and my dad sat me down and goes, Teresita, we're looking to buy our first house, and we need your help. My mom didn't speak English, and so I needed to help in the process of purchasing that home to be the translator. And so I actually was very involved in the translating of the process of that first home with the realtor. And once we finally got to the closing table, of course, all of us were there as typical because we were so excited about that purchase. And when we got to the home, my dad, I can still see him. His hands were trembling with with fear as he was opening. Well, I thought it was fear, but what I realized was actually excitement as he opened the door. He actually dropped the keys. And when we got into the house, me and Alma ran through the house because my sisters were still in strollers. Ran through the house, and my mom went straight to the kitchen and started crying. And my dad started tearing up, and then I saw tears running down his face. Now, I didn't know what those tears were back then. I thought, why are they not happy? For us, this was a mansion. It was huge. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranch. Yeah. It was less than 1,000 square feet, but it was so big for us. And also, I realized later that those tears were not tears of sadness. They were actually tears of joy and tears of pride. And that moment, I will never forget. And I always wanted to recreate that moment for other families. And that's why I became a realtor.
That's amazing. I mean that it's you take me down a path for sure of that emotional why that so many of us have, in this industry, and not just with Hispanic families, but as we find out and through all our work with so many other, demographics and families around the United States. I love that, and it definitely is a reason to go into real estate. But you've gone beyond just working in real estate. You have taken it to a lot of volunteerism, a lot of hard work outside of just your own pocket, right? And into the community. What drives you? What's that passion for the Hispanic Latino community? Where was that born and how does that work?
Gosh, what a great question. And I'll tell you, from that home that we first bought, we moved. My family and eventually moved to Mississippi, where I grew up, and we bought a larger home. And that larger home helped my family just be surrounded by incredible people, where I actually met Mike, my husband, and ended up going on to college. So I know that the opportunity that homeownership brings to the table is wealth creation. It wasn't actually until I met my birth mother, because my life is like a telenovela. So my dad actually kidnapped us from my birth mother, and so my birth mother's Puerto Rican, but I was raised by my parents are Colombian. My mother that adopted me was Colombian, and I went to find her in my 30s, and realized that when I did find her, she was still in New York, where we had been born, and never had gotten off the welfare system, and never advanced, never owned a home. And I look at my life and I see that there's one thing that made a difference, and that was home ownership. And so for me, it's very critical to teach home ownership, to talk about home ownership, about the opportunities it creates, because it is just more than just owning a home. It creates a whole life and a generation after generation of opportunity for the children of that's what we do. That's like everyone. That's what we're about, is our children. So as I look at it, and as you look at NARP, they do a great job in telling you the stats. And if you look at it, the state of Hispanic homeownership speaks to the fact that Latino homeowners have a net worth of $171,900. 28 times that of Latino renters, $6,210. That was the story of my life and my birth mother, and I see it, and that's why I'm so passionate about it.
I absolutely love that. I mean, that is the lesson of wealth creation, and that is, again, it resonates with so many people, and I hope that people are taking those lessons in. Especially if you're listening in, you're a realtor. These are the stories that you want to tell. Those success stories, those passionate stories. You have no idea how many people are out there and don't have access to this information. So it's amazing. And with that said, that is the mission at NAREP. Can you tell us a little bit more about the mission at NAREP, how you got involved, and, kind of where you've taken it?
Right. And, I think education is key. I think a lot of people don't understand the process, or are scared of the process, or, are intimidated, right? Do I have good credit, or I don't have credit? So I think that is one reason that the mission of NARP is so incredible, because what it does is help realtors understand that mission, the NARP 10 principles that they've created. There's so much, and we're going to go deeper into it, I know, later in this conversation. But how I got to know NARP is I was very involved. You've already talked about the fact that I've always wanted to be involved. And I do a lot of volunteering, and I was the incoming chair of the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and the CEO of the company that I worked for at the time, I was with Prudential Atlanta Realty, was Dan Forsman. And Dan Forsman is still our CEO, and at that company. He's with now, it's of course Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Georgia Properties, and he's actually the one that introduced me to NARA, because as I was extremely busy, he had actually started a NARA chapter with Luis Morales in Gainesville, Georgia, and it had not gotten off the ground. So Dan was insistent that I get involved with NARP because of the potential and the opportunity he saw in this organization to impact homeownership. that year, which was 2004, NARP actually held a conference in Denver, Colorado. I think it was one of their very first conferences, and Dan thought I should attend, and I kept telling him I don't have the time, but he was insistent. And anyone that knows Dan knows that you cannot say no to the man. So he convinced me to go, and that one decision, changed my life forever. Once I got to that conference, I was hooked. And I'll tell you why. NARP was something special, and I knew it the minute I walked into the conference. There, I got to hear the story that Gary Acosta, who is one of the co-founders, along with Ernie Reyes Jr., as to why they started NARP, the mission about NARP, and I fell in love with their vision. They had created an organization that combined Latino culture, which I was all about, right? Professional entrepreneurship and business leaders, just like the chamber, with the focus on real estate, which was always the missing link in the work that I was doing at the Georgia Hispanic Chamber. On the last day of the conference, Manny, I met Vice President of Stewart Title in the elevator, and he told me there were two guys that also wanted to start the chapter in Atlanta. And so as soon as I got back, James Altimirano and Bobby Armez and I got together and discussed how we were going to do it. And from then, the history of how NARP Atlanta got started was coursed, right? We put the course in the chapter, and that's been what the local journey has been all about. Due to my role at the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, I did not become president of NARP until 2010, okay? And I'd taken that role probably at the toughest time in our industry. It was right after the real estate market crash of 2008, and a lot of Latinos and Hispanic real estate agents had left the industry because they could not do business. And so our membership was really just very small. We only had about 25 members, and 12 of us were actually on the board, right? You had or were on committees and all that. And NARP did one thing I think they'll never forget. They actually had introduced us to Juan Martinez. Juan Martinez was asked to coach all the chapters to try to help us create momentum, because Juan had actually started, re-engaged the NARP Las Vegas chapter, and it had boomed. And so he had great experience, and he was on the national board. And so they'd asked Juan to coach us. I had never had a coach for NARP before, right? It changed everything.
Yeah.
Juan actually told us we would have to meet every single month. It was every other week, a 30-minute call. And if you missed it, you missed it, because he was very, very busy. I never missed a call. Our board and Roberto Salomon, who was my vice president at the time, we did everything that they told us to do, even though there's a little bit of controversy about change and what we were doing, because change is difficult. But we grew the chapter 6 months in. It happened 6 months in, from that 24 to over 200 members. And that brought me to attention, where Juan Martinez eventually nominated me to be part of the NARP National Board, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, in 2014, he asked me to run for president. Juan Martinez, a man that has changed my life too. And he said, "You need to run for president. Chica, you got it." He's got the Cuban accent. Ernie Reyes, I'll never forget, he said to me, because he was still living, he said, "If not now, when? You are it. You're ready, girl. Mija." He said, "Mija, you're ready." Those words were enough to bring me that confidence. And again, I'll never forget that, because that changed my life. And in 2015, I became NARP National President for the organization.
That's an amazing journey from, local chapter, co-founder to national stage. And And trust me, y'all, for those who are involved with NAREP and those who aren't, when you go to these national events, I mean, Teresa is the one to talk to for sure. And it's because and I hope everyone's listening out there, it's because she listened and she took the advice of those who came before her, as I try to do as well. Take the advice of those that came before me. And you're right, Teresa. I hope that people are catching that big lesson in that beautiful story, and that is these two men that helped you. They really helped you realize that if not now, when? And that is something I actually said when I was asked to step up a little bit with NAREP. I was comfortable where I was. I was helping with events. I was events director for the chapter. And then I was told, we really need you to step up to this. And I thought I wasn't ready. I'm still growing my business. And those words were given to me by one of our past presidents as well, and Neil Turk. And he said, Manny, you just have to make time. You are passionate about this. You have to make time for it. And that stuck with me. And that's how those journeys happen. So real quick, I want to talk a little bit about we could talk all day about what the organization does, to promote Hispanic homeownership. But I know you can give us a little bit more of the mission and then how we accomplish that, and the focus is within NAREP.
Sure. And one of the things that you're right, because you mentioned Neil Turk, and we've had some incredible leadership at the Atlanta chapter, which is one of the things that NAREP does. It actually surrounds you with some of the brightest and most influential people in the industry. And that's how you develop those contacts and the networks. That's how I met our CEO, Gino Bofari, at NAREP, at a corporate board of governors meeting. He was actually just new into the business. So think about that. The people, the contacts, the influence. So, Latinos, again, are the largest minority today. And they're going to make up 70% of homeownership growth within the next 20 years. And those numbers, if you look at those numbers alone, we're in real estate. Hey, it makes total sense. But it also means that over the last 10 years, 80% of the labor market has been driven in the U.S. by Latinos. So combine all of that. We're the youngest demographic with the median age of 30 years old, which is 14 years younger than white, non-Hispanic. And if you think of that, we're in the prime year of purchasing homes, right? So nearly 2 in 3 Latinos are age 40 or younger. And understanding the cultural and the unique nuances of Latino market is extremely important. And, one of the things that, about NAREP is that their mission is to increase sustainable home ownership. They're about advocacy. They're about educating. All of those things combined, right? And they're a force to be reckoned with. They've created a network of talented and driven real estate professionals, mortgage professionals. They also deal with, we're about entrepreneurship because, as you know, most real estate agents and realtors like us, realtors, are independent contractors, and so who are dedicated to that same mission of increasing sustainable homeownership and wealth creation. They're a powerful voice in advocacy and helping with solutions for affordable housing options, access to credit, education, increased opportunities. And it has also created numerous resources. If you haven't accessed them, you gotta go to narep.org because they have the State of Hispanic Homeownership Report that they do out every year, the NAREP Top 250. I mean, there's one thing, the Health Hispanic Wealth Project, one thing after another that they've created. And so they're actually the go-to organization when it comes to any real estate in the Hispanic market as well.
Absolutely. And this conversation, for those of you out there, I mean, there's a million things that I know Theresa could go into even in more detail, things like the NAREP 10, and these are like 10 big qualities to live by that NAREP really believes in. There's just so many lessons and nuggets here. So this is just an introduction. As she mentioned, narep.org is a great resource, and we have a lot of information on there. But what you mentioned, what's important about today's real estate world and why this organization is important is everything together of what you just said. If you are not involved, if you are not paying attention to these statistics, if you are not listening to the Latino voices, Hispanic leaders out there, if you are not doing that, you're already behind, and you're going to be way behind when these stats come to flourish.
So true.
Like what you said, that in less than 20 years, 70% of the first-time home buyers will be Latino market. You're behind if that's when you start paying attention. So that's why these organizations are really, very important here. I have a question that usually comes up to me, Teresa, and you can tell me, I'm sure you've been hearing this for a long time. When I took my presidency, there was the announcement and we did the gala and all that. And I had a lot of non-Latinos come to me and say, congratulations, let me know how I could support you. I would love, I wish I could have been there. And they thought it was just for Latinos. And I had to say, wait. Let's backtrack here. First of all, there's a lot we can do together here. It's called being an ally to our mission, right? You can be a non-Latino and come to our events. Our events are in English, and they're for the community. What do you say to that when people say, how can I get involved? How can I help? How can they partner in our mission?
Well, and it's so true, right? Because one question I would always get, well, do you guys do all your meetings in Spanish? I mean, I was like, I said, no, we do them in English. We're doing business in English. You have to be an ally. It's really important. And here's why. The Latino community is extremely loyal. I'm going to share a really quick story about my mother. My mother, Mercedes, when we moved to Mississippi, my mom died when I was 18 years old. We purchased our home through a realtor there, and that realtor did not speak English, and my mom didn't speak English. Okay, now think of the dynamic. Think about that. But this realtor would come by. She was just a perfect example of what a realtor should do. She would come by and she would bring us, gifts every single year. She would actually talk about real estate to me, and then I would again tell my mom. And my mom, however, she did not speak Spanish. When my mom died, I saw that our realtor was at our funeral, and she came to me and she said, "I loved your mom." I said, "She actually gave me more referrals than any other client. Not speaking the language, everyone that would move to our little city of Mississippi became a client of that realtor." My mom referred more clients to her than any other one. So think about that. You can get very involved in NARUP. And there's so many chapters across the entire country. Obviously, the Atlanta chapter is fabulous, and we've got some great leadership and the connections. If you need to meet somebody that can help you with title or loaning, with loans, somebody that may speak Spanish, as long as you're willing to want to increase the mission that we all have, that's all that people care about. That's what is important to us. You can also join companies that can help you with that mission. I know Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Georgia Properties, and Harry Norman Realtors are two companies here in Atlanta that are part of the Home Services family, and we have been partners of NARUP since they started. I told you, Dan, who, actually is the one that introduced me to NARUP, and has always been passionate about the organization because he saw the opportunity that it created to help others in homeownership. And after all, that is what it's all about.
I love it. I mean, you mentioned so many reasons, even throughout this whole, our whole conversations of why people should get involved, why you should, pay attention, and why you should become an ally if you're not, a Hispanic Latino agent out there. The other thing I want to also point out is it's the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. So people are surprised when they come and they network at our events, not just with realtors, but also with everyone else in our industry. I know that, between events director and presidency, we would have, sometimes we've done deals with florists, car dealerships. People have come in and supported us from so many different industries, not just your closing attorneys and your lenders, but we touch so many parts of everyone's, lives as realtors that's become very important. And you, Teresa, pointed out to something that people should be noticing as well when you learn about Latinos, is that we are a very loyal people. We are familia, as we like to say, but that's just not within our own family. It's our community. It's our village. Like you mentioned, that beautiful story and the fact that when the realtor was at your funeral, she mentioned, we are going to refer the people that we love to the people that we love to work with.
Who care about us, who want to make a difference. And this agent was just culturally aware and love, that mission of helping others. So I think it's really critical.
And if nothing else, for y'all listening out there, NAREP has so much reach and so much influence that when we do national conferences and things like that, I mean, we have some incredible guests. So if nothing else, for the lineup of everyone from Zoe Zaldana has been to our events, A-Rod has been to our events, J-Lo made an appearance one year, Gloria and Emilio Stefan work very closely with our organization. It's all, again, connecting and networking, and that's something beautiful about the organization.
And I have to agree with you. And what happened is Gary Acosta also realized the opportunity that we had to really reach out to the mainstream, and also to include media, to include corporations, government entities, also to include personalities, and because of the power of the Latino purchase, right? And that drive that we all have, and to change the vision that a lot of people have, or the stereotype that everyone is just on poverty, or not is immigrating here, not legally, right? So to change that perspective, and he has done an incredible job in creating that.
Truly has, truly has. And then before we kind of wrap up here, I want to just give you the floor to mention anything else you'd like to mention, again, as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month here. And then just give us a quick of where they can find you, where people can contact you. I know you have actually your own podcast, and like I said, Theresa can give you so much more information that we can fit in one podcast here. But yeah, I would like to give you the floor.
Well, first of all, I want to make sure that people remember how to pronounce NAREP, because a lot of people do mistake it, and they'll say different things. And I'll never forget, Jerry Asensio used to come in. Jerry was one of our national presidents. He would say, just remember the song, na 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 NAREP. So that kind of helps you with that. I love that. Go. Also, I do have a podcast, several podcasts that I do, and one of them, we focus on women who lead. And the reason is because of my own story, not realizing as a young girl that there were Latina role models, because I was in Mississippi and I didn't see that. And I picked up my mother's magazine when we were in the hospital, and it had Linda Carter. It was a Vanidades, and it had Linda Carter in the magazine article, and she was Wonder Woman. And I was like, wow, she is Latina. She's facing a lot of the same, or faced a lot of the same things as I did growing up. And it just was a aha moment for me. And so for women who lead, we really focus on leaders in our industry that are of different ethnicities, different backgrounds, that are in leadership positions, so that they can actually inspire other women that may not know about these careers and get into them, right? Because that's what inspired me. So that's what Women Who Lead is all about. We also have a podcast, and we actually also have that series that goes Facebook Live as well. And you'll find something on Wednesdays, always at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when these broadcasts go. And you can find them on womenwholeadseries.com or womenwholeadpodcast.com. And my easiest way to get me is through my email. It's teresasmith@homeservices.com.
I love it. I know that you will have people reaching out, like I said, a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information, and a staple in our community, and a big influence to me, Theresa. So it really means a lot that you were able to join us today.
Thank you so much, Manny.
Absolutely.
Great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, listen, it has been a pleasure as always spending time with all of you today. Atlanta Realtor family, until next time, adios.
Ciao, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to the Atlanta Realtors Rundown. Please subscribe, and for more information on how to get engaged, check us out at atlantarealtors.com. We look forward to having you join us for the next episode.